I feel fine.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
2, 1, 0, 0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, roger. Go for deploy.
And everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
You're looking live at the Crew Dragon spacecraft and Falcon 9 rocket set to carry 3 American astronauts and 1 Japanese astronaut to the International Space Station in just a few hours. Today begins the first full-duration science mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program. Good afternoon and welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm Marie Lewis with NASA Public Affairs.
And I'm Kate Tice, Senior Certification Engineer at SpaceX. Joining us today is someone very familiar with historic Launch Pad 39A, retired NASA astronaut Nicole Stott. Welcome, Nicole.
Good afternoon, ladies. It is wonderful to be here with you at the Kennedy Space Center. Absolutely one of my favorite places on the planet.
And ours too.
Absolutely. At 7:27 p.m. Eastern Time this evening, NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi will lift off from this historic launch complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center and begin their 6-month journey in orbit. This mission, known as Crew 1, will be the first American-launched mission with astronauts aboard since the Demo 2 test flight this past summer.
That's right, and we have teams across the world covering the action from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, Mission Control in Houston, and JAXA headquarters in Japan, and of course, right here in Florida.
In just a few minutes, at T-minus 4 hours and 5 minutes, NASA will turn the crew over to the SpaceX team. And once that happens, there are a series of key milestones to complete as we count down to T0. The first one is Suit Up. The Suit Up room is located in NASA's Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building, or the O&C. Here, the SpaceX team will help the astronauts put on their suits and perform some key suit checkouts. After Suit Up, we'll see Crew Walkout. The astronauts will leave the O&C building for final goodbyes with friends and family gathered outside the facility before they head out to the launch pad.
And following goodbyes, the crew will get in a pair of Teslas and begin the roughly 20-minute drive to pad 39A. Once at the pad, the crew will ascend the fixed service structure in an elevator up to the 255-foot level. Then they take the stairs for the last 10 feet or so up to the crew access arm and white room. The white room is their last stop before climbing inside the spacecraft, a process called crew ingress. During ingress, the SpaceX team will run a series of checks to ensure the suits, seats, and vehicle interactions are all functioning properly.
And after all the vehicle and crew checkouts are completed, the SpaceX closeout team will close Dragon's side hatch with the crew safely inside. At T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm, which is the long suspended walkway that the astronauts use to board Dragon, will retract away, followed by arming of the launch escape system.
And once the arm is retracted and the launch escape system is armed, that's when propellant loading on Falcon 9 will begin. At T-minus 5 minutes, Dragon will be configured for what we call terminal count. This is when Dragon's onboard computers take control of the spacecraft.
And finally, at T0, Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 will lift off from pad 39A. Roughly 12 minutes after liftoff, Crew Dragon will separate from Falcon 9's second stage, enter its activation phase, and begin using its own onboard propulsion system to carry the crew to their destination, the International Space Station.
So with Crew Suit Up about 7 minutes or so away, we want to introduce our team at SpaceX headquarters in California to show us what's happening on the opposite coast. Leah?
Hi, Marie, and hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'm NASA's Leah Cheshire, and we are beyond excited you're joining us live for the first crew rotation flight of the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft on a Falcon 9 rocket to the International Space Station.
I'm Jesse Anderson, a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. Right next to us is Mission Control Hawthorne, where our teams are monitoring the vehicle, checking in on all of its systems, and the capsule is currently go for launch.
Once the crew lifts off, it will take them about 27.5 hours to reach their destination, the space station, with Dragon flying autonomously the entire way. The crew won't be doing any manual flight tests along the way like we saw during DM2 earlier.
When astronauts dedicate this patch to their families.
And you know, I have to tell you, when I saw this patch, it made me smile because of the Blue Dragon. One
Our friends are nice and comfortable during their ride. We are pumping cool air through the suit. So they're basically sitting in these chairs that are duplications of the chairs inside of the capsule to make sure that all of those umbilicals will get hooked up properly. Now, those recliners that Nicole is so fond of, they are in the room. I promise they're still there. You might even be able to see them in the background in some of. Crazy to think that Demo 2 lifted off and splashed down just earlier. Years of cooperation with the cargo program, the cargo resupply program with NASA going to the International Space Station, then developing this crew system that we see here. We had 22 trips to station so far to date, and 9 of those have actually been completed on a reused Dragon, so that's pretty exciting. Like I mentioned, we've had a lot of progress this year. The in-flight abort test was completed in January, and then, like I said, Demo 2 back in May, lifted off in May and splashed down in August. Nicole, were you able to follow along with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, just because you retire from the astronaut office doesn't mean you completely separate yourself, you know.
Sure.
And yeah, I made a point of following along a lot of living.
It today. The weather in the immediate area looks really good, but the downrange weather is to the launch pad ahead of this historic mission to the International Space Station.
Outside the ONC building, we have friends and family gathered there for final goodbyes prior to liftoff with our astronauts.
And that's a very different thing to the shuttle days. The last time we saw our families would have been at what we call the wave across the ditch, you know, the day before launch. And typically for shuttle launches, you would have employees and, you know, people that would come out to wish us well. I think it's a very special thing that the crew's families get that up close and personal right before they get into the crew transport vehicles to the pad.
You notice everyone keeping is a safe distance here, but that distance would be enforced regardless of whether COVID-19 was a factor in what's going on. That distance is maintained regardless. Like I mentioned before, there are 3 Teslas that will be taking our crew out. In the first car, we will have a closeout lead as well as a couple of suit technicians. The second car will be Mike Hawkins and Shannon Walker, as well as our flight surgeon. And then the last car, we will have Victor Glover and Soichi Noguchi, as well as one of our other closeout leads. So like I mentioned before, the suits are assigned, the seats in the capsule are assigned, as well as the seats in the Teslas. There's no fire drills happening here today.
Soichi.
You can hear just some ambient conversations between the crew and their immediate families. Such a special moment for them to have.
Very.
This crew has said a couple of times that Soichi is the funniest one of them all, and that comes out here.
Yeah, you can definitely see
absolutely.
that. You know, this is all very carefully choreographed. You can you see in one of the shots some of the ropes and stanchions, but there are lots of people involved in the planning of where the immediate families are going to stand, where the small contingent of media will stand, especially in COVID times where we have to make sure we're keeping the crew safe and their families safe. They were able to have a little extra time with their families yesterday because we moved off of yesterday as the launch day, so they had a little extra downtime that I imagine was nice for them.
Yeah, you mentioned that everything is very well choreographed. You know, while this is the first time that we're seeing the crew make this journey to the pad on, you know, the day of, fingers crossed we don't have a scrub. They have performed this a number of times, including a dry dress earlier this week. But everything that this crew does is rehearsed many, many times, whether it's putting the suits on or taking them off, or even the operations and activities that they have going on during the mission. Everything is rehearsed and practiced.
I can tell you, though, on the real day, feels a little different.
I have no doubt.
Immediate family members getting a chance to have another moment with the crew before they leave.
And then you'll see some of the folks there in the blue flight suits. Those are astronauts from the astronaut office active that are working as crew support astronauts for the families and the crew members. That's so awesome.
So I mentioned earlier that the Teslas that we utilized in our last crew mission, Demo 2, you can tell which Teslas those are because of the sticker in the lower passenger side front window.
I can't get a good read at the license plate this time, but I remember for Demo 2 they said ISS bound.
Yeah, that's good.
Are a very special group of folks, some who the crew might even recognize. I'm mixing up my days like you, Kate.
We all are.
Today, right? Yeah. So Thursday there was a dry dress rehearsal where they went through this whole process from...
Best way to...
Sorry, it sounds like we were starting to hear a call, so I don't want to step.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a view. You can see the NASA worm, and on the far end, that is where the phone is. Nicole, can you talk about the significance of the phone there?
Yeah, and I think they've maintained the same original phone, like
Yes.
the big handset, and it was one last opportunity to, call your family before loading up into the vehicle. And I don't know, I love that NASA and now NASA and SpaceX have maintained these personal touches to the humans that are part of human spaceflight. I think it's really, really important that we do those kinds of things.
And the one other thing that you'll notice,
Depending on the situation, you might actually have some smoke or the water deluge system going, and so you tip your head down, you look at the floor, you grab each other and go.
Yeah, and if we were to do a quick exit from the tower, we utilize basically baskets that are on zip lines, and they slide down the wire to safety.
and you can see on your screen the crew beginning the ingress process already. So our timeline has this happening at T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes. So it looks like they may just be starting that a little bit early. There are, of course, 4 astronauts who have to ingress. So this doesn't happen in an instant. It's a process, but obviously that process has begun.
So we see some of the suit technicians there assisting them to get into their seat, making sure that the boots are able to lock into position on the footrest appropriately, making sure once again that all the zippers are in the right place, and making sure that we're able to do all the checkouts necessary, both in terms of environmental controls, but also communication audio as well.
And I wasn't sure, do we have Mike and Shannon already inside? Okay,
Yeah,
so
they're
Mike and
both in
Shannon
there.
are already inside, and Victor and Soichi have not made their way into the White Room yet. They're finishing up their phone calls. And so again, crew ingress is just a spaceflight term for getting inside the spacecraft. So Mike Hopkins and Shannon Walker have ingressed Crew Dragon. You can see the bottom of one of their legs inside the open hatch there. And Victor Glover and Soichi Noguchi looks like are now making their way. They're starting to move. They will be walking down the crew access arm. There's the outside of it, so they're making their way down that hallway as we speak. And they'll be stopping in the white room in just a moment.
You know, it's hard to see in that shot, but I'm very happy to say that we got blue skies and a couple of puffy white clouds working with us. So while it might look a little overcast on the screen, we're pretty happy with what we've got at the moment.
And you can see the little shadows of them moving along through the windows into the white room. Almost there.
Okay, there they are. So this is again a look inside the white room. It's not a very big space. It's pretty tight, but that's by design. Okay, so while Victor and Soichi are getting a chance to sign their names to the inside of the white room, we want to recap just a little bit. If you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission, today sending 4 astronauts into orbit on a mission to the International Space Station. NASA astronauts Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi are flying on a 6-month mission to the International Space Station. Good afternoon and welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm Marie Lewis, Public Affairs Officer for NASA.
And I'm Kate
System, seeing any alerts or issues with the vehicle, and if required, they can take control and manually fly Dragon.
And coming up, the crew will do a comm check to make sure that they can hear mission control, and then their seats will be rotated into position for launch. But right now, they are finishing getting buckled in and getting their suits connected to those custom seats.
Some of those things to listen for when we're doing those comm checks. They'll be doing comm checks through multiple paths to Dragon. They'll do some through TDRS, that's our tracking data and relay satellite system. We also use that for communications with the International Space Station. And then you'll hear ground. That refers to several ground stations around the globe that SpaceX had. And upon liftoff, those ground stations will be able to provide telemetry from Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. There's also about a half a dozen checks to ensure everybody's ready in here. You can see those suit-up crew. I've heard people call them the ninjas before. I think it's a pretty apt name. But they are checking to make sure the suits are ready. They're helping them connect the umbilicals. They're buckling them in. They're also assisting with those leak and comm checks. So they each have a very individual and specific role. And we just stepped through this a couple of days ago for the dry dress. Every single used for them to command the mission. It's really for them to monitor where they're at, monitor how the vehicle is doing. They can take control if need be. However, this is an autonomous vehicle, so after launch today, they should just be a
phenomenal day. But they're important to have, as you know, they give the crew a path to safety if necessary.
And we just heard the call for seat rotation. So that means that the crew, their seats are being rotated into position for launch. So we are going to send it over to NASA's Daryl Nail. He is at the OSB-2 viewing location with Kennedy Center Director Bob Cabana. Daryl?
That's right. Thank you, Marie, and thank you for the tour of the Dragon space capsule. And I am here with Bob Cabana, Director of the Kennedy Space Center. Thanks for being here, Bob. And this is the Kennedy interview desk, and we are in the shadow of a little bit of cool hardware ourselves, the vehicle assembly building, which looks outstanding.
Doesn't it? It's got a new, we touched it up a little. We repainted the flag and NASA meatball and the sides of it. We got it all spiffed up for this history-making day.
Excellent.
You know, it's another great day at the Kennedy Space Center, America's premier multi-user spaceport. We're making history.
You like to talk about that.
First FAA commercial license launch of crew to the International Space Station.
And to that point, why is that important for Canada?
Well, it's important because we're trying to establish a commercial economy in low Earth orbit, all right? We want to be one of many customers. So by us flying crews to the International Space Station on an FAA license flight, it opens up the door for other people to fly up there.
Right.
Other commercial customers. Yeah.
So I saw you down there with the crew getting out, and they were walking out to their cars.
Yeah, they look great. They're excited.
I think I saw you were holding your phone, getting some shots.
I got, I kind of admit I'm a little bit of a space nerd.
Well, hey, listen, I mean, you've been to space 4 times, so you understand what these folks are going through right now. I mean, it's getting real. These seats are articulating up. You can see it moving right now, Bob, as they get into position there.
Yep.
This must be a moment where it kind of gets real.
Oh, yeah, once you're strapped in, and wait till they close the hatch, then it's really real.
Is that the moment it clicks?
Yeah, then it's like, okay, we're inside this thing, we're going.
What's the feeling? What kind of goes through your head?
So it depends on different. I mean, on my first flight, what absolutely went through my head was, I don't want to screw this up. I want to make sure I don't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really focused on making sure that I did everything absolutely perfect. And you don't know what to expect. First off, no simulator on Earth can prepare you for what it's like to ride a rocket into space. I mean, you practice everything, but man, it just gets up and goes. That acceleration, that force pushing you back in the seat, it's something else. And so not knowing what that's going to be like, there's a little bit of anticipation. When you go a second and third time, then you got a little more idea of what to expect, and you can relax a little bit more. But so there's anticipation of what is this going to be like? What is this going to feel like?
And you would think there's some nerves there, right, just naturally in this moment. But these 4 astronauts, they also ate extremely well. So I hope that the nerves don't get them too much. They ate well because they were at the astronaut crew quarters. You've been hosting them for the past week.
Sure.
And tell me about what they got to eat. Like
anything they wanted.
That's great. On the menu, whatever you want. I heard like New York strip steak, basmati rice.
Whatever.
There was some dressing thrown in.
Yeah. No, life in crew quarters is good.
Yeah.
With there's one crew. We used to have a motto in crew quarters: eat till you're sleepy and sleep till it's time you're hungry.
That's a good way to leave. I'm surprised you can get them out there to get on the rocket with that kind of living.
So that's why you don't want to spend too much time in crew quarters.
Yeah.
No, but we do a great job protecting our astronauts from keeping them healthy. But it's not about it's just amazing what we do. I would trade places with any one of them in a heartbeat. I'm really proud of these guys, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished as a nation to have this commercial crew program. Kathy Leaders and her team have just done an outstanding job getting Bob and Doug Hurley up there and home safely, paving the way for this first flight under contract with SpaceX. This is the future, and we want to get Boeing flying too. They're right over here building the CST-100. We got to have them have a successful flight so that we have dissimilar redundancy, so that we can get crews to and from the International Space Station.
Their test launch right around the corner next year in 2021. Bob Cabana, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate your insight as always. Bob
Thanks for having me, Daryl.
Flew into space 4 times, folks. So between me and him, we have 4 flights into space. There you go. We'll send it back to you guys. Tahira.
Hey, Daryl, thank you so much. So right now, we've got about 300,000 people tuning in across all of our social channels.
This is a test pilot's dream.
There's a great rigidity to our crew. I wanted to be an astronaut for a long time. High school days, I watched the shuttle launch. I studied aerodynamics and...
this issue right now?
Well, Marie, right now we're just in 92 minutes if the weather cooperates, and of course the range is ready to go. So right now we're going to throw it back to Daryl while we wait for follow-on discussions.
John, thank you very much for that update, and we're...
So we should be hearing any time now a post-ingress briefing. That's what we're expecting for the crew inside to kind of get a recap. Okay, so maybe a couple more minutes before we hear that briefing. So we're going to move on temporarily. We've made mention of the first crew to launch in Crew Dragon a little earlier this year. And you may remember them as the Space Dads, as they are affectionately known by the NASA and SpaceX teams who work with them. We watched them lift off from this very spot back in May, ending a 9-year gap in human spaceflight from American soil. And we want to honor the courage of NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley with a look at their historic Demo 2 test flight.
Welcome aboard. Dragon, SpaceX, ComCheck, ground stations.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
On behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
We would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We do have a friend on board with us, Trimmer, the Apatosaurus. I think I was requested to do a backflip. Good night, Megan and Theo. And Karen and Jack.
MD Houston flight. Houston is go for undocking and departure.
Dragon is committed to undock.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. We are ready for the systems brief.
Copy. As stated, Dragon's in a healthy state. We are proceeding toward the primary landing site, and your timeline is current. Visual, 2 drones out.
300 meters. We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown. Endeavour, on behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
It's a humbling experience to be a part of what was accomplished.
It's great to see how excited everybody was. We hope it brings a little bit of brightness to a pretty tough 2020.
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but that gives me goosebumps watching that recap.
Yeah, absolutely.
My family and I made a point to drive over here to the East Coast to watch launch.
To talk to the crew the entire way to the station.
And after those suit checks, we were looking for the leak check and fly it manually.
And finally, our Super Draco launch escape system is a key safety feature of Crew Dragon, giving the crew the ability to safely escape from the time of launch all the way to orbit.
And we are now T-minus 57 minutes from launch. This day is the beginning of regular crew flights to the space station from U.S. soil, NASA having certified SpaceX for these missions after the successful Demo 2 flight test, which launched in May and splashed down safely in August.
Today's mission will be Crew Dragon's second mission with astronauts aboard, and its first long-duration mission to the International Space Station. It's been an awesome countdown so far. Weather is still looking good. We just
on countdown. The technical team has been pulled and is ready to proceed into the propellant load. Thank you.
And not only is weather good, but sounds like we're proceeding into propellant load. So we're at T-minus 56 minutes and 37 seconds, and we're just getting closer and closer to that T0. So exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a great countdown today. Of course, a few things we didn't expect, but nonetheless, everything continuing on schedule. So starting with suit up, just over 3 hours ago, the SpaceX team helped the crew put on their suits and conduct initial checkouts before crew walkout. Crew walkout was where Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi gave final goodbyes with friends and family gathered outside the operations and checkout building before they began that roughly 20-minute ride to pad 39A.
And what a cool ride that was. What you're seeing on your screen is them getting into their vehicles, waving goodbye. We got some great footage of those Teslas heading down the NASA Causeway before the crew arrived at the pad. And once they got to the pad, they took a minute to take in the sights. There you can see on your screen. They took some pictures and then they headed up into the fixed service structure to begin a process known as crew ingress, where the astronauts entered the vehicle and the SpaceX team performed a series of checks to ensure their suits, the seats, and the vehicle interactions were all functioning properly.
And about 15.
As a reminder, step 55.72 is open for propellant load go, no-go buys.
That's the team continuing to discuss the go, no-go for propellant load. But about 15 minutes ago, the team closed Dragon's hatch with the crew safely inside. So with about 55 minutes to go until Dragon starts breathing fire, things will pick up as we get close to that go, no-go to begin propellant loading and arming the launch escape system.
The crew will pull for readiness, which was completed just about 5 minutes ago. And the Dragon pull for prop loading was just called out not too long ago. Next up at T-minus 45 minutes will be an internal mission control Hawthorne pull, and then the launch director's pull for propellant loading. When we get to about T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm will retract and the crew will get the call to close their visors and arm the launch escape system. This is the automated system in place that can fire the 8 Super Draco thrusters on Dragon to quickly separate the crew from the rocket, either on the pad or during the flight on the ride uphill.
And then once we reach about T-minus
this and hopefully in the
yeah,
future.
so that's a great question, Daryl.
Retract, propellant loading, and launch.
Now closing their visors and now commanding the launch escape system to be armed. Now the launch escape is a great propellant to use in spaceflight because you don't need an...
To here at Zero, we wanted to give you an overview of what the ascent portion of the bulkhead will be checked. From there, over the next 27.5 hours, Dragon will begin its approach phase, undergoing a number of phasing burns as it makes its way to station. All of that will be coming up soon.
Stage 2 cryo-helium load.
And confirmation, stage 2 cryo-helium being loaded now. But for now, let's check back in with Marie at Kennedy Space Center. Marie?
All right, thank you, Leah. If you're just joining us, we are now at T-minus 25 minutes, 5 seconds and counting from the second astronaut launch from U.S. soil this year, and the first with 4 astronauts aboard Crew Dragon. We want to go over to NASA's Garvey McIntosh. She is standing by in Japan to speak live with the president of JAXA. Garvey, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Marie. Hello, I'm here in Tokyo, Japan. This is Garvey McIntosh, and I'm going to interview JAXA President, Dr. Hiroshi Yamakawa. Dr. Yamakawa, konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Could you tell us about the partnership between JAXA and NASA?
Oh, thank you very much for your question. The U.S. and Japan have built a close relationship in the aerospace field for more than 50 years. And NASA and JAXA have been collaborating in many fields, including earth science, space exploration, human space activities, and aeronautics. Astronaut Noguchi participates in the crew.
We operate with resilience. Anthony and team are on console here in Mission Control for launch.
Loading on Falcon 9 on time at T-minus 35 minutes. You may have heard earlier the call out. The fuel is completely...
Crew displays, those 3 panels in front of our astronauts, will be configured for launch.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
And there's the call out. Stage 1 engine chill has started. indicates that we are opening the pre-valves, liquid oxygen now beginning to flow slowly through the turbopumps on the Merlin 1D first stage engines.
That stage 1 liquid oxygen loading is complete. Stage 1
LOX load is complete.
And there we have it, and stage 2 should finish shortly after at about 2 minutes prior to liftoff.
So now the last major event is finished liquid oxygen loading on stage 2. Wraps up at about T-minus 2 minutes. Then at about T-minus a minute and a half, we have to drain back and vent down the liquid line that goes up the strong back alongside the Falcon 9. If you see a large white cloud about midway down around the rocket, that's normal. That's again just the gaseous oxygen hitting the warm, moist Florida air.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete. Dragon is in auto idle.
And good calls that stage 2 liquid oxygen load is complete. That means we have full fuel on the first and second stages, that densified kerosene, and we're full of the oxidizer. Liquid oxygen on the first and second stage as well. Now just a minute and 20 seconds until liftoff today. And as you can hear those sounds, like Soichi Noguchi said, the vehicle is alive. Coming up in 10 seconds, we'll look to hear that Dragon is in countdown and Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
50 seconds now until liftoff. That FTS you heard is flight termination.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX, this is Resilient. Roger, go.
Go for launch, and at 37 seconds, the International Space Station flying over Kennedy Space Center.
All for one, crew one for all.
Crew Dragon poised to go catch it. 20 seconds till liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. Falcon 9 is configured for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
And resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all.
M1E propulsion is nominal.
That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
As 30 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Stage 1 is preparing to throttle down. This is in preparation for max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Stage 1, throttle down.
There's that call out for throttle down.
Power and telemetry continue to be nominal for the vehicle, now traveling at 262 meters per second.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
There's that call out. The Falcon 9 is supersonic, and we will be passing through max Q here shortly, the largest structural load during ascent.
Max Q.
And there's that call out. That Falcon has passed through max Q.
1 Bravo.
And we've just entered Stage 1 Bravo abort mode. That's going to take them through the end of the first stage burning just before second stage activates off the coast of North Carolina. T plus 1 minute and 40 seconds into flight. Dragon and Falcon 9 traveling 709 meters per second. That call that MVAC chill is underway, the Merlin vacuum engine.
Now with the call out of MVAC-D chillin, similar to what we saw in the first stage Merlin engines, The second stage engine being prepared for its ignition, coming up in just over 30 seconds from now. We're a half a minute away from 3 quick events in rapid succession. We're going to get main engine cut off. The 9 Merlin engines will throttle down and then shut down. We're going to get stage separation.
Stage 1 throttle down.
And then ignition of the second stage engine. We've begun the throttle down in preparation for stage separation.
And we have
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed. Position of signal.
And you see that stage separation has confirmed. There goes that MVAC engine. Stage 2. Crew 1 is now on their way to the International Space Station. On the right side of your screen, you see stage 2 continuing to burn. Over on the left-hand side is stage 1 preparing for its return to Earth.
Currently on the left side, you can't make out much. It's a couple hours after sunset in Florida, but the grid fins have deployed on the first stage. The first stage is now unpowered, but with the velocity it had, it continues to coast up to an apogee before it begins to descend back into Earth's atmosphere. Now as we watch, maybe we'll see the lights of Florida or the eastern seaboard in the background, but otherwise there's not going to be much to see. On the right-hand side,
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
you can hear the call out. Trajectory is nominal.
Nominal trajectory.
And we've heard the call out Bermuda. That means Bermuda ground station has the signals from the second stage of the Dragon and Falcon 9.
We're still continuing as stage 2 burns to listen for those abort zones. We are now in 2A through 2E to Echo, taking us up over the northern Atlantic.
Right now you can see the second stage engine glowing with the standard red that we have come to see over all these missions. Indicates everything's looking good. Power on the MVAC-D engine continues to run at 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of outer space.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
And trajectory nominal.
Nominal trajectory.
And we hear the reply from the crew acknowledging we have a nominal trajectory. Dragon made it to the Falcon 9 second stage, heading into the low Earth orbit, where Dragon will then separate and begin its trip the rest of the way to the space station.
We'll be looking for SECO, second stage engine cutoff, coming up at 8 minutes and 48 seconds after launch today, so about 3.5 minutes from now. Dragon and Falcon 9, second stage, currently flying 2,979 meters per second.
Now currently the first stage has begun its descent. It is through apogee. It's beginning to come back down where it coming up in another couple of minutes, we will have the entry burn where we begin to slow down the first stage.
SpaceX trajectory nominal.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
Another call out, another nominal trajectory, just what we love to hear.
That voice you're hearing on board Dragon, that's Commander Mike Hopkins speaking for our 4-person crew as they continue their journey, now 6 minutes and 12 seconds after liftoff. Trajectory still nominal.
And Leah, you can see on the indicator altitude, 201 kilometers. We're now beginning to essentially level out and pick up velocity to get us into low Earth orbit. We're a little under 1 minute from the ignition for the entry burn on first stage.
And we're about 2 minutes away.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
Great news. Now 7 minutes after launch, second stage engine continues to burn. Everything looking good. And we'll see that continue to burn for another 1 minute and about 38 seconds.
Right now on stage 2, the crew's getting about a little more than 2.5 G's of acceleration. First stage preparing to ignite for the entry burn.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
And we've got ignition of the entry burn, center engine, followed by the other 2 restart engines. First stage now getting ready to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is about a 29-second burn, and it's designed to slow the vehicle way down. We're going to shed about 70% of the velocity of that dropping first stage by the time this landing burn completes. I should say by the time the entry burn completes, which is now over. First stage on target for the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Meanwhile, we're watching second stage getting close to getting into orbit.
That's right. We've got about 30 seconds
Stage 2 internal
more.
guidance.
And now just about 20 seconds more of stage 2 continuing to burn until we see second stage engine cutoff, or SECO. We'll coast for a few minutes afterward to allow the rates in motion to...
Roger, Shannon.
There's that call for Shannon. That's Shannon, Ireland, an abort zone, but it looks like we continue smoothly to orbit today.
MVAC shutdown.
And we've got shutdown of the second stage engine on time.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Launch escape system is disarmed. And SpaceX copies.
And Leah, the words we like to hear, a nominal orbit insertion.
That's right, John. Nominal orbit insertion, as we mentioned, stage 2. Oh, looks like some action on stage 1. And I believe we've had a touchdown on the drone ship.
We've got stage 1 has touchdown on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. But now the more important news, second stage is in orbit, right where we want, right on time. And we're getting ready for our next major activity, which will be Dragon spacecraft separation. Now, currently on the second stage, we are essentially venting pressure, purging the engine out, making sure everything is quiet in preparation.
Take a look. That's inside Crew Dragon right now. Our Crew 1 crew now coasting in low Earth orbit, still attached to that second stage. In just a couple of minutes, we should see that second stage separate, and Crew Dragon will be flying free.
Leah, the mission timer shows 90 seconds to Dragon separation.
Currently, Dragon is flying at 27,000 kilometers an hour. And we're T plus 11 minutes since liftoff today, waiting on that second stage separation. But as you can see, our astronauts from left to right, Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, and Soichi Noguchi, now on their way to the International Space Station. First trip to space for Victor Glover.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And that call out, acquisition of signal in Newfoundland. That means the Newfoundland ground station is now receiving telemetry from Dragon. This view inside Mission Control Hawthorne. Teams continuing to monitor the vehicle, now traveling at almost 27,000 kilometers an hour.
Ten seconds to Dragon separation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And separation confirmed. You can see that second stage departing. Crew Dragon leaving it behind.
Separation confirmed.
Now 12 minutes, 25 seconds into today's flight. Our next thing we'll be looking for is nose cone deploy. Our hooks will start to open on the nose cone and reveal those forward thrusters underneath. "13 minutes into today's mission. The view on the right-hand side of your screen coming from Crew Dragon. We had that short look at the second stage as it departed. That second stage will burn up upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon SpaceX, we see nominal service section Draco checkouts and dehumidifier activation.
And SpaceX, this is Dragon. We copy all and we see the same.
Confirmation from teams on the ground and the crew. You can see them monitoring those 3 display panels, monitoring their journey to the International Space Station and where they are in the world right now, or over the world, I should say.
Well, we're in 14 minutes, 25 seconds since it was a great liftoff. Everything happened. We had a nominal insertion into low Earth orbit. You saw Dragon separate. We got the Draco checkouts were good. And right now we're hearing the nose cone hooks are opening up. Everything is happening right per the procedure. And we've got Crew 1 successfully on orbit. So with that, let's head over to our counterparts at Kennedy Space Center. Marie, how was that launch for you all there on the ground?
Oh my gosh, John, it just took our breath away. I mean, we could just turn right around in our seats and watch. We got up away from the desk to get a better look. And then we actually could see the booster coming back down.
Yeah, that was outstanding. Outstanding. And I don't even know what to say. High five. We're like high-fiving through the shield here.
High five. My husband texted me a picture of my daughter watching liftoff. It was just, I'm emotional. Seeing that, and we went on the first attempt. How often does that happen in human space flight?
As it should.
I'm very happy. It has been a long day, but just to be able to stand there and feel the rocket pounding the air around you was just incredible. And then looking at the light too long, I couldn't see the MVAC ignition, so I still have spots in my eyes.
And then the views inside the capsule too, with the 4 of them, looking kind of mellow, but you can see Victor's kind of letting his arms do a little bit of the floaty thing. I bet he cannot wait to get out of his seat.
Well, he's going to get a chance to here shortly. So he's officially on his way on his first space flight.
So
Incredible.
Victor, Mike, Shannon, and Soichi are now on course to arrive at the International Space Station just tomorrow, Monday, November 16th, around 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to stay live on air for continuous live coverage along their entire ride to station. Though our coverage here at Kennedy Space Center will conclude, we're going to turn it over to the teams in Hawthorne and Houston to take us through the next phases of the Crew 1 mission, all the way through hatch opening and a welcome ceremony for the crew. Now, for those of you watching online via YouTube, take a look at the description below the video. There you'll find the new link for our Crew 1 rendezvous phase, and we'll be continuing live coverage at that new location shortly.